Yep. So if we do item number 5 first, in the absence of Councillor Thompson, so to elect a vice chair. So have we got any nominations for a vice chair?
Is that all right?
Could I nominate?
Sorry?
Could I nominate you
Right.
as a councillor? Yeah. So
And then can we just do a quick vote in that?
I'm nominating Mrs. van der Velde.
Yeah. And then is that? Yeah.
So do you want me to come up there?
Yes, please.
Sorry. I was called this way. Is that the microphone?
Yeah.
Can you all hear me? Right, good afternoon, everybody. This is most unexpected. It's lovely to see you all. We do have some new faces here, so would it be all right to start off and introduce ourselves? I'm Diana van der Velde. I was up till now a vice chair. Whether I've still taken that on or not, I don't know. I'm from the Jewish community in Newcastle. Would you like to?
Yeah. So I'm Rebecca. I am your Sacrament clerk.
Hi, I'm Kaz, or Caroline Weir. I work as the RE consultant for Northumberland Sacrament.
Hello, I'm Dave Cookson, Head of School Improvement and Lead Officer for Sacrament.
I'm Joyce Miller, I'm a Buddhist representative.
Chris Hudson, Church of England representative.
I'm Nick Morfitt, I'm the County Councillor for Humsoft Ward.
Trevor Thorne, County Councillor for Shilbottle.
Tony Nichols, and I'm the NEU rep for the Sacrament.
Les Bowman, I'm the County Councillor for Hollywood Ward.
Claire Curtis, teacher at Norbury Primary School.
I'm Claire Dixon from Slaley First School, and I'm here to act as be an observer today to see if I'd like to come and join you as the teacher. Thank you.
I'm Ros Kent from Cragside Primary School in Cramlington.
I'm Paul Rusby with the Church of England.
Right. Let me just look at the picture. That's it there, right. Well, so is the election of the chair a fait accompli, that he will be chair?
Yeah.
Any apologies for absence?
Anna, could I raise a point of order? Could I suggest the wording of this should be amended? Because we haven't elected the chair's been appointed. So I think we should be accurate in the way Sacrament details are set down on the record.
Thank you.
So you need to, so it's membership in terms of reference, so that's to note, so members just need to note that.
Sorry?
So your membership in terms of reference, so it's to note, so members need to note.
Right. Did you note what Joyce said?
Yeah.
So, sorry, I've done it the wrong way round, but I thought it was important to do the introductions first. So, we need to look at the minutes of...
So, election of the chair, so it's to note, so everyone needs to note the election of Councillor Renna Thompson as the chair as well.
Yes.
Because that's appointed by chair, so is that noted?
Keep me right.
But noted that it's been that person's been appointed, not elected.
Yeah.
Yes.
Appointed.
Yes.
And then apologies goes on here.
So minutes of the meeting, was the last meeting the 2nd of February? Must have been.
Just quickly to apologies. So, just really quickly, I've got apologies from Councillor Anna Thompson and apologies from A. Duffield and Reverend Ted Marley as well.
Right. So for those of us that were here on the 2nd of February, would you like to go through the minutes of that meeting, and are there any comments that anybody wants to make? If we look on page 2. Page 3. Page 4. We haven't heard anything from Mr. Dearlove.
Mr. Dearlove's on his way home from Greece and sends his apologies. I should have mentioned it.
Thank you. So if there's no comments, what do we do about this then, the election of Vice Chair?
So it's just so there's 2 sets of minutes. So the February minutes need accepting. Yeah.
Oh yes, sorry.
So if they're accepted.
Yeah.
And then the agreed syllabus conference minutes from the 6th of April if they're accepted.
Mm. Yes, we did that on Zoom, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes.
So then we've done election of Vice Chair, so it just goes to disclosures of interest. If anybody's got any disclosures.
Anybody have any disclosures of interest?
Diana, could I
Yes.
ask a question? With regard to the minutes on of the Sacrament meeting, one of the points that we noted then, that you had noted in fact, being about the Holocaust Memorial Day and how we hadn't found out about anything happening until too close to the event. And I wondered whether that needs to be noted now, because obviously by the time we have our next meeting, that it will be quite close to Holocaust Memorial Day, and whether some action could be taken in the summer. I don't know what the best course of action for that is, Dave, to find out, because I know that you didn't find out anything until 2 days before the event.
Yeah, I can email the people in Democratic Services who organised that event now, so that they are aware that they need to let me know, so I can let you know.
Well, the theme is out, and it's ordinary people. And that they make use of the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust website. There's plenty of stuff on there. So it's Democratic Services that are running it.
Democratic Services usually, or staff in Democratic Services usually arrange it.
Arrange it.
So if I talk to them to ensure that they let me know when the planning begins, I can then keep Sacrament up to date.
And what about encouraging schools? Is that not feasible to be part of it?
It depends on what they're planning to do. There's no reason why not. So absolutely, if that's what we decide we want to do, then yeah.
I think I've sent you stuff, possibly.
And it all
knowing me, I've bombarded you with stuff.
It all goes on the Sacrament newsletter.
Right.
You send me, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, Kaz.
Could I raise a point about the minutes as well? I'm not sure when we check the minutes whether we're doing accuracy or matters arising. But under matters arising, there was a comment about Stuart and his appointment as a full member of Sacrament. So could I ask whether that's now been finally confirmed? And could I also ask a sub-question It refers to terms of reference, but we tend to talk about our constitution, and I'm not entirely clear what are the terms of reference and what is the constitution. Are they synonymous, or are they different documents?
No, they're synonymous.
Okay. And do we have any further information about Stuart? Is he now definite?
Yes, nobody came back with any comments. So,
Okay.
yes,
Good,
Stuart
thank you.
he's definite.
We're on to item 7. Is that right? Caroline, I'm giving you a posh title. Would you like to share with us what's been going on the last few months?
Absolutely. Thank you, Deanna. In this section of the meeting for the new folk, I tend to do a little update on what work I've been doing with schools since the last meeting. Really, since the last meeting, the focus has been completely on the syllabus and preparing that and working with RE today to get that sorted and to make sure that schools knew about it and were able to come to the launch day. I'm wondering, Chair, whether you would mind if I just move item 9 up and just talk about, seeing I'm talking about the syllabus now, is that okay?
Where things are linked, I think that makes sense.
So, this is the new syllabus, everybody. So that's wonderful. We know that you haven't all got a physical copy unless you're a teacher in a school, but we can allow all Sacrament members to have access to it online, and we can arrange for that to be sent round to folks so that you can have a look at it yourself at your own leisure. We had a brilliant day when we launched the syllabus here in this building. So Stephen Pett from RE Today came up, and the teachers that are in the room today are all there as well, which was brilliant. And part of the Nasaray recruitment drive happened on that day as well. So I did ask if any teachers would like to join the Nasaray, and didn't put any pressure on anybody. But it's lovely that we've got more teachers here as well, so thank you. Thank you to those Nasaray members who were able to attend on the day. So Councillor Nick was there, and Chris was there, and obviously Claire was there. And who was my other person? Yes, Bhakti Rasa came along as well, which was great. And unfortunately, Joyce was involved in an incident, which meant that she wasn't able to attend. But it was lovely to have Sacrament members there and have that representation, and for teachers to see Sacrament members and to see that what Sacrament is, because for a number of the teachers, they don't know what Sacrament is. So it was lovely that they got an opportunity to see these real life people who are doing the work behind the scenes, and it's great that some have come to join us as well, which is fab. So on the day, Stephen started off with a kind of launch where we had everybody all together in the room, and he talked through the kind of the key points of the syllabus and the pedagogy, so the kind of teaching and learning approach that it takes. And he did lots of kind of little activities to get people talking to one another, and activities that they could take back to the classroom straight away. And then about halfway through the morning, we split off into middle and secondary, which I took, and I took those people in this very room, in fact. And then the first and primary, and most of our special school colleagues stayed in the main session with Stephen, but we did have one special school that came in with me. And so both separately, we just carried on looking at the syllabus. We took various units as examples and gave people teaching and learning ideas and talked through how they might approach the syllabus and how they might put it into practice in the classroom. Stephen also brought his colleague Darren from RE Today, who brought some resources with him, and they also offered, if schools wanted to buy into schemes of work, that they could do that. So there is enough in the syllabus for schools to plan. There's an overview sheet for every unit, but if schools wanted some extra support, they could buy that if they wanted. And we also then took the opportunity to gather email addresses from folks so that we've got a more up-to-date list of who's kind of responsible for RE in schools, and I can contact them directly. So hopefully that will then mean I can get more people at my networks in the next year, and that will get a bit more of a buzz, and I'll keep nagging them about the newsletter so that they can look at it and Dave's fears were concerned as part of the survey there, that lots of them, he asked whether people had heard of the newsletter or not, and quite a few of them hadn't. So we've given that a plug as well, which is great. And I also offered out various training options for people to vote on as to which would be the most helpful. So Dave and I are then just taking a look at that, and we're going to put some dates in for the autumn term and the rest of the year for folk to come along. So the first course I'm going to be running is the Understanding Christianity course, because a number of schools have been requesting that. And then after that, we'll look at other worldviews, and I'll do some RE subject leadership, because a number of schools were interested in that, and particularly the thing that came through in the feedback beyond the subject knowledge was what to do in a deep dive. So I think as part of the subject leadership training, that hopefully folk will then feel more confident in their subject, more confident in how to plan their curriculum in school, and therefore feel more confident with articulating that with any visitor, and one of whom might be an Ofsted inspector sometime. And then we all came together at the end of the day just to gather some feedback from folk, and I think it would be fair to say that the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. People really enjoyed the day. There was a real buzz in the room, which was lovely, because up until now I've never actually met any of the teachers in real life. So it was lovely. It was so lovely, in fact, just to have a room full of teachers all excited about RE, and to hear people just talking and buzzing and chatting. And I'm really hoping that this is a real kind of injection of enthusiasm and renewal of RE after COVID and all the rest of it, that we can then start this next academic year really excited and all the rest of it. So that would be my summary. So it was a good day. Yes, Councillor.
Could I add that Dave's introduction was extremely good? You might have mentioned that. If you did, I missed it, but it was extremely good.
Thank you. It was very kind of you to say so. I can't remember what I said now, but it was very well planned in advance. So.
Thank you.
Can I just ask if any of the members of the faith communities have been invited into Northumberland schools and done anything? Of course, it's been difficult. I've visited Hexham First School, but that was back at the beginning of the year. I did a Zoom with Hexham St Mary's, because unfortunately at the moment the Orthodox Synagogue of Newcastle is a building site, so we can't have kids in. And is it Darras Hall Primary? Louise Cave, I think, is the teacher. And I did, I think, a double session for her with the Year 5s. I don't want to blow my own trumpet.
Deanna, I stand corrected. I was working on Northern Saints with one particular school, Lowick and Holy Island. So I had a day with them. I had a day with the whole school, which is basically a single class. But I had a whole day with them on Holy Island, guiding them round and exploring the faith aspects of Holy Island. So that was
I'm sure you'll get more requests. Which school was it?
Lowick and Holy Island. They function as one.
Right.
Holy Island has just doubled its school population because a new family has moved in.
Great, thank you. What did any of the teachers, just in terms of the syllabus, did any of you, don't have to say anything, but did any of you want to kind of make any comments about anything you've heard on the grapevine since, or anything like that?
As a general consensus, the new syllabus is really good. The teachers like that the objectives are more prescribed and it's more condensed, and kind of having it on one page is really helpful, and they're not like going through pages and pages and pages to try and find out what they need to do. I think just the look of it as well just feels so much better, and teachers are feeling happier and more positive about, I think, September.
Can I? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'd just like to say it's really enthused me, and I think it's a really exciting development. So thank you.
Can I just ask, are you happy with the fact that you actually got a hard copy as well as using...
Yeah, definitely. It definitely helps. I think especially if you're an RE subject leader, to have a hard copy, and then you can direct your staff to the PDF version.
Yeah.
Can I add something? Sorry. We also ran the Life Path project, which was actually Brinkbone Priory, with about, I think it was 18 or 19 schools. But they came to the Priory and we dressed up as monks and basically introduced them to the life of one of the Northern Saints and some key Christian beliefs. And it was very successful. Again, 500 children plus the teachers plus their helpers. One thing we will be doing in the coming year is looking to tie in very much some of its objectives with the agreed syllabus. So we tick as many boxes as we possibly can.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chris. Yes, please do.
We had nearly 100 schools in attendance, which was great. But for those that didn't attend, then they have all the ones that need to use the syllabus have been emailed, asked to collect a copy of the new syllabus before the end of term. Or we're taking them to schools if we're going to visit, so that they can begin their planning as soon as possible. So we're ensuring that those that didn't attend or couldn't attend do get hold of the syllabus so that everybody's ready to go, ready to start the planning in detail from September for full implementation from the following September. And the plan across the year is that we'll support schools to make sure that implementation is as successful as possible. So we are on to those that weren't in attendance as well.
There was a mention about localised units a while ago. I don't know if that's still going to go ahead. I know it was difficult trying to get people together. I just wondered if that was something you were still looking at.
We did try to get people together to plan the localised units, and to be frank, there weren't enough people that attended to make that worthwhile. So we can try that again, but unless we get attendance from the people who live in the county and know the subject, that will be difficult to do. So yes, if that's something that that people would like and we think would be useful to schools, then absolutely we'll try again. Yeah.
I hadn't offered to help because I have no knowledge, unfortunately, of our local religious history. But I do think it's a brilliant idea. But I was just wondering who had been invited to help. Was it members of Sacrament, or had we invited religious history experts from outside of Sacrament as well? And if not, maybe should we?
We invited Sacrament members to start with, but there weren't enough people to make that meeting worthwhile in terms of going ahead. So until we have the beginnings and trying to find out who the other people are that we might need to invite, it's very difficult to make a start. So, as I say, we will try that again, but unless we have some of the experts, because like you, Nick, I'm certainly no expert, but I'm willing to help and go and find the right people, but I need guidance into who those right people are.
My feeling is that the right people must exist and probably would love to be invited. You know, specialists love to be invited to talk about their specialist subjects. So I think I would like us to persevere.
I'd love to do it. But as part of the team, certainly we need teachers to be part of that, serving teachers.
I'll help as much as I can. That's all I can say. I don't know how much I can help, but I would like to try to help.
Thank you, and we will look into putting in a new date and trying to start that process again.
Because everybody on Sacrament is a specialist in some sense. So the counsellors, you are specialists in the areas that you represent. Therefore, we need you there. And teachers are specialists in what they do in the classroom. And our faith and other worldviews representatives are experts on those. And Chris is an expert here in more than one of those areas. So, yeah, just to reiterate what Dave said, the issue was that Sacrament members didn't volunteer. Therefore, we couldn't get started. So it would be really great if we could. And now we've got some more teachers on board as well, that we could absolutely, and Claire, you can get a band of pals together to work with Sacrament members, so people like Nick and Chris who are keen to get together and to do this work, and then we can do it. But until we get a critical mass of people who will support us, and I know it was the counsellors particularly who said you wanted this work done, so we really need you to help us, and then we can move forward with that. That would be great. More than 2, which is what we got last time. I would say to have a really good working party, I don't know, 6, 8 minimum, so that we've got enough, then we can split off into smaller groups and work together and so on. Joyce?
Chris and I talked about this on the way down, and we wondered if it might be worth spending a little bit of time letting this syllabus bed in And as soon as teachers are confident, and once you have your network meetings, it might be possible then to find some teachers who'd like to work with people like Chris and me and other Sacrament members who would be willing, so that during this coming academic year, we can start working seriously on this. We don't want to overburden teachers. They've got a whole new syllabus to get their heads around, but we don't want this to be delayed so that it looks like an add-on. So I think there's a critical point when we'll have people willing to do it and people ready to receive it. Okay.
That sounds like a great idea. Let us know when that critical point arrives, Joyce. But no, that's absolutely right. And I do have a number of teachers who, a small number of teachers who did want to be involved. And I think now that we've had the launch and people have kind of seen us, they've seen the syllabus, I think that will hopefully get some more on board. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
When we get on to point number 10, there's a thing about work. One part of the Nasaray newsletter includes grants from West Hill for local RE resourcing, and possibly that's one that could be worth a bid.
Absolutely, we'll get on to that in
I think by February
13 with the subcommittee, because that was something on there as well. The key thing with the West Hill Awards, which we'll talk about in a while, is that they need to have a focus on diversity. So we would need to think carefully about how we would do that in order to fulfil their quite strict criteria. Great, thank you.
Can I just ask, please, the work on things like subject specialism, would RE leaders in aided schools, who I know won't be following this syllabus, would they have a place to play or be invited, or is that not the case?
Do you mean to help with the local units?
No, when you were talking about some of the work that you were going to be doing with regard to training and RE leadership, is that going to be given out to everybody?
Oh, I see. Yeah, it will be available to any school that wants to come. So academies and aided schools will be absolutely able to come and join us. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for that.
Yeah, can we go on? So item number 8, school workforce data.
Okay, so
from you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes. So it's later on in your agenda pack, and it looks a bit like this. So these infographics. Oh, sorry, I've jumped on. That was the report card. Sorry, the workforce data is the one with the very small writing, isn't it? In a little table like this. Yeah, well, thank you. Sorry. I had COVID last week, so I'm still a little bit COVID-brained as well as it being nearly the end of term. Joyce, would you like to lead us into this and just give us a little bit of the context of this, as you had asked for it to be on the agenda?
The background to this school workforce data is that every November, every school has to report to the Department for Education on how it's setting out its curriculum. And that information is then shared in terms of religious education with the National Association of Teachers of RE, who are given the data to use so that Sacrays can fulfil their statutory duty, one of which is to monitor the quality and the work of religious education in their schools. So I think the information that you have in front of you is out of date. It was collected in November 2020, when, of course, schools were still deep in the throes of COVID and closures. And so it is data to be taken with a pinch of salt. But I think it's really important that it is on this Sacrament agenda and annually from now on, because this November schools will go through the same exercise. It will then be published. It will be sent to Nasaray in June, so that by September, the information will be sent out to individual Sacrays for us to have the information that schools have provided about themselves in terms of the amount of time they devote to religious education across the curriculum. I think if you look at the data here, it's very worrying in a whole range of respects. There are a number of schools where there are just dots, and that means that schools have submitted data about the curriculum but have said nothing about religious education. Now, you could infer from that that means they're not doing anything at all, but that could be a completely wrong inference, because they might be doing something that they call philosophy and ethics, and the computer system doesn't pick up religious education. They might be doing humanities, of which RE is a really important part. So it is information, like all data sets, that you have to look at very, very carefully. But the general trend is that schools provide this information. We are now in receipt of it, which means that we can ask some questions at an individual school level about whether they're providing religious education, how much time they're giving to religious education, and frankly, whether schools are fulfilling their statutory duty and are compliant with the law in terms of their RE provision. So I'm not absolutely sure that it's worth our time going through this in any sort of detail, Chair, because it's now very out-of-date information. But it is presenting information that we need to be able to interrogate when we get the next set of data. So this is a sort of trial run. This is what is available, and we can then look at it quite closely. And I expect we'll then have some questions for Dave to take to his colleagues who go out into school as school improvement officers to say, are you really not doing any RE? Or how come 12% of curriculum time is given to RE, which is an extraordinary figure? The sort of average schools would be expected from most agreed syllabuses would be around 5%. On the data we've got here, this shows that 5 of our schools, or 4 or 5, show a decrease, and a number of them show no change. But even where schools have an increase, they may be moving from, 1.4% to 1.5%, so they're still way, way below where we'd expect them to be. So the data generates a lot of questions. So this is simply to introduce the data, which is now going to be available on a yearly basis for every Sacrament to look at.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you, Joyce. It's really interesting, actually. When we review it annually, are we going to investigate the schools which appear to be falling below standards? And the other question was, how many schools aren't on this list? Because I just looked for my old schools and noticed that one of them wasn't on. Are there schools which are missing? And why are they missing rather than just showing up but with no data?
There are 24 on the list, I think. How many should be there? I don't know the answer to the question, I'm afraid. And I think I'd want Dave and Kaz to confirm this, but I assume the answer to your first question is yes. It is one of Sacrament's jobs to monitor what goes on in schools. And apart from exam results and Ofsted inspections, which rarely report on RE, this is one of the best data sets we have to tell us what's actually happening in our schools. Yes.
And what I can see that jumps out at me is Bede Academy, and it's a Christian school, academy school, obviously, and I see high percentages of religious education within that school. There are some schools that come close to it, but it gives some indication, doesn't it, that it is the policy of the school to some extent. It is the leadership of the school. It is the management of the school. If they focus on religious education as part of the management of the school, then we should see these numbers increase. It is worrying to have no data at all in a lot of what we see here on the forms. It is a concern, but I don't know if they are teaching religious education. It doesn't indicate. Even if they were, you would think you would get a 0.1 at least. To have no data at all is a bit worrying. I see that Cramlington Learning Village, you do have data for that. You've got 2 columns up to year 9, where it's actually 0, but then year 10, you've got 0.7. then year 11 you got 0.6. So there is some religious education being taught at that school. So I think what we can assume, but this is just my opinion, that where we don't have any data, then there's been no religious education at all. And that's sad. It really is, if that's the case.
Could I just comment? I don't think we can assume there is no religious education. The data are incomplete, and I think it would be very dangerous to draw conclusions without further evidence. But if a school looks as if there's no RE, then we would want someone to go and ask some questions, or Sacrament to write to the school to ask for an explanation. To go to your earlier point, Les, about the Bede Academy, it is usual that the head of RE in a voluntary aided school is paid at a very high level, much higher than most heads of departments, and on a par with, say, English and maths, and they will have a number of specialist teachers employed. So it is usually very much better funded in an academy than in most community schools. Now, that is a decision by management, but governors, and the amount of support that is given by the church governing groups that manage those schools. But voluntary aided schools are nearly always much, much better funded for RE than community schools.
Can I just add, oh sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you for that, for highlighting that. It is something that, can we pursue it to encourage community schools to fund religious education to a higher level than they already do? We should be looking into that. It could be one of our recommendations.
Thank you. Can I just add, I've just read a couple of posts this week about schools where they've had a deep dive in an Ofsted inspection in RE, and the query was, why isn't there RE, particularly key stage, either key stage 4 or key stage 5? So the inspections are looking at it, and often the teachers themselves have fought very hard to keep it going, and there's sometimes lack of support from the SLT.
We have had 2 inspections in Northumberland where there has been a deep dive into RE, out of 60 or 70 over the last couple of years. But they have been more recently, so it may well be that there is a move towards a greater look at RE from Ofsted over time. There are conversations planned for September with a number of the schools on this list, not because of the data itself, but because of other conversations I've had. So I am happy to talk to all of the schools on here. I think Joyce is absolutely right. We need to go back and ask the questions again, because there is a lot that has changed since 2020. But those conversations will take place, and when we do get the next set of data, using that and the knowledge that I have of what is going on in the schools, we can make a decision as to how we approach those schools where we feel that insufficient time is being given to those schools. And you are correct, there is at least 1 or 2 schools missing from that list, which we ought to go back to the national body and tell them that whilst it's very, very good, there are some schools missing. So, thank you.
Chris?
Ask how many of these schools were present at the launch? Ish. Any idea?
Of the ones that needed to teach, that have to take up the syllabus, all bar 2, I think.
All of them?
All bar 2.
Okay.
And of the 2 that weren't, you've been in touch with 1. That one. Mm-hmm. And I've been in touch with the other one. Thank you.
Okay. Can we go on to the next?
Can I just ask about primary and first schools? Obviously we've got no data for them. I'm just wondering Do we collect data for them as well? No, just middle and secondary.
Is it? With regard to primary and first schools who have a religious affiliation, voluntary aided, they obviously linked to the diocese, but they have their own separate inspection, and RE is a key component of that. Voluntary controlled schools who will use the local syllabus, they are also subject to those inspection regimes, and they also are inspected as to the quality of the RE that is taught and the leadership of RE. So there are, within a number of schools within Northumberland, some clear indicators about how much RE is taught in those primary and first schools.
But this data isn't collected by Sacrament. This is DFE data. So they collect it from secondary schools, and these middle schools are deemed secondary. That's why they're included in this list.
Okay, can we have a look at Nasaray issues? Is that something we're actually going to look at, or are you just asking us to read the news? Is there anything in there that's relevant to today?
The briefing that's included in our pack is now out of date, and the latest briefing has just been sent out, I think.
Yes, it has.
But today. So that would be a better one to look at. But in terms of what's in our pack, a lot of the dates have passed, but the one question I was going to ask, and I've talked with Dave about, was it said about Sacrament's working with their teaching school hubs. And so for those of you who aren't aware, just because of the kind of direction of travel in terms of academisation and so on, and the way that teacher training is done now, fewer people do a formal PGCE at a university and more people get trained on the job, and that is now being done. There used to be teaching schools, and that's now been updated to be these teaching school hubs. And so for many of the teachers that we have here in the county, they will be being trained at a teaching school hub. And so that is why Nasaray are saying that's a really good these are really good schools and hubs to have a kind of allyship with, I suppose, to support and ensure that those who are going through those trainee programmes are getting good input on RE. So I was going to ask our local authority officer about that.
Yep, and I am actually the link to the teaching schools, or have been the link to the teaching schools, and I'm now the link to the teaching school hubs. So I meet with Rebecca regularly to discuss all things teaching school. So anything that you would like from them, for me to pass to them, or vice versa, then obviously we've got a direct link to them. So that link is made and can continue to be made. Yeah.
Joyce?
Would it be helpful if we were to invite her to come to a Sacrament meeting to talk about initial teacher training and RE in any way in which Sacrament might be able to support that process? Or invite her to be an observer at our meetings? It would be good to have closer contact with initial teacher training, I think.
So sorry, I didn't catch. So is this a specific person?
It's Rebecca, what's her name?
Rebecca Taylor is the lead for the teaching school hub.
And I think it would also be quite interesting to know which schools are involved. Is that a possibility as well?
Yes, there is one teaching school hub for north of Tyne, and that is King Edward's High School in Morpeth. But they do work alongside a number of the former teaching schools across the county. So yes, I can certainly invite Rebecca to our November meeting if that's what we would like.
Yes, people are interested in that.
Okay, so we're on to point 11, Religious Education 2022 report card.
Yes, this is the one I was early for before. So that's later on in our pack, and it's these infographics. So I'd asked for these to be put on the agenda, and actually the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noted that Nasaray on their briefing had also suggested that could be an item for the agenda. But hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at it. It's quite straightforward in terms of being able to digest, which is what I really like about it, the way they've kind of set it out. So this was released in May. If you were listening to BBC Radio Tees at 8:30 on the 22nd of May, you will have heard me talking about this very report card. That's the dizzy heights of where you get to in my job. But I think it's just useful to have a sense of what RE is looking like nationally across the country. And again, as Joyce was saying there about data, taking the data with a pinch of salt, you know, so on the first page where it says it's increased by entries for full course GCSE increased by 29.7%. That also has to be balanced up with the short course being taken out of school. I'm looking for the word. Where it doesn't count anymore towards your data. And so some schools have just dropped that altogether, and some have carried on with RE and replaced it by the full GCSE. For me, the most encouraging thing actually is the increase in A-level entries, so 49.5%, beating those other subjects, which is great because obviously the more we have doing A-level and the more we have going on to read theology or religious studies, and hopefully the more we have going on to become excellent RE teachers in the future. What I was going to say, and this is, again, jumping on to an item later in the agenda where the subcommittee had suggested for our meetings that we have opportunities to talk to one another in the meetings, and I thought this would be a really good source of data to have a quick discussion with your partner. So what I'd like you to do is just to chat with somebody near you. If you're not near somebody, can you shift along and move to talk to somebody and just have a quick chat about these pages and if there's anything in particular you think really jumped out at you, and if there's anything in particular you think that Sacrament needs to, or maybe is an action for Sacrament or something that you think Sacrament needs to consider going forward into the next academic year. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to talk with your partner, and then we'll feed back. But if you would like to do it in bigger groups, you can do it in 3s or 4s if you want. Go wild. Okay.
So I'll cut the live stream through.
Sure.
Yeah, if we cut the live stream and then I'll stop it recording.
Good. Is there anything in particular that really stood out to you in the data? Obviously, you had a chance to read it before you came, and you've had a chance now to talk with a partner. But was there anything in particular that either stood out to you or that you think this particular Sacrament needs to take action on? Yes?
Yes. Well, Nick and I were discussing these figures about, lack of investment in projects, whereas, other core subjects, English, math, science, have had an awful lot of money spent on them. And, Nick was mentioning actually that we should be lobbying people now to say, this isn't right, is it? Religious studies, religious education being left behind and neglected. And, it's hardly surprising that, people are excelling or choosing other subjects rather than religious studies. Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. The figures are very stark, aren't they? And particularly alongside the training bursary and how that's been scrapped despite not hitting the numbers that we knew we were trying to recruit into the subject. Thank you. Paul, you were next.
I was excited. I like to be excited about RE. 95% of primary teachers reporting time spent on teaching RE has increased or stayed the same. I think that's a fantastic set of data. And I think one of the wonderful, wonderful things about the new Northumberland syllabus is it enables people of community schools, of control schools, of aided schools to have more conversations together, because there's so much overlap now between the two syllabus. I think it's a stroke of genius. I think that, and actually I think it will bring people together because there's a common desire. And if that comes from the youngest up, then there's an encouragement then of secondary schools as well to keep the torch going as well. So I think that's a brilliant piece of data.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. That's great. Les, I think you were next.
Yeah, I just want to continue on from what was said earlier about the lack of funding. It's strange, isn't it? 387 million for music, culture, I suppose, but nothing for religious education. I suppose religious education is culture, in a sense, but at the end of the day, they don't consider religious education to be of value. So, yeah, we should be lobbying government to fund more in education of religious activities or humanities. And it is culture, if they want to put that word to it. What we did highlight was the future of RE. It is a bit of an issue, isn't it? We've just gone through a graph, as it were, and I know it could be construed because of COVID, but at the end of the day, it's a downward trend, and we've got to change that trend, and that's the problem. Even locally, as we've identified, the trend is down, and we need to move that trend in the right direction, which is up. And so how do we do it? Well, the two actually are side by side, aren't they? Lack of funding, we need more funding, and obviously management of schools have got to tackle the idea that should be 5% or more within the curriculum of the school. So we need to bring that to every school in the county to actually move ahead. Got a fantastic syllabus, so why can't we do that as well? So, yep, that's my
Great,
two
thank you,
comments.
Les. And
Thank
so
you.
our elected representatives, then that's absolutely your place, isn't it, to represent us and to be speaking to the portfolio holder, our chair, about RE and the funding that it gets, and going to the local authorities and talking to them about why, for example, Sacrament doesn't get its full 2%, and all of those are the things that you can be talking and supporting us with. So absolutely, thank you so much. Joyce?
The funding issue is complicated, of course, by the fact that RE isn't part of the national curriculum. So to compare RE with history is an unfair comparison, because local authorities are supposed to provide all the funding for religious education. The government does not. So to complain that they don't spend any money, it's no good writing to your MP saying we want you to spend money on RE, because their answer will be, but it's locally determined, we can't spend money on it. Now, they could support individual projects, and they frequently choose not to, or they frequently choose to provide much less funding than they're asked to provide. But the government will not support religious education in the way it supports history and music or anything else, unless and until we are no longer locally determined. And that's one of the big issues in religious education. Do we want to have local determination, or do we not? And the law is very, very clear on that. Whether it's best to continue with that for the future of religious education is highly debatable.
Thank you. Great. Well, yes, sorry, Nick, yes.
I was going to point out that in the Nasaray briefing, it talks about a template letter that people can use to write to the Education Select Committee to ask about plans for an inquiry into RE in schools. It says that we can email Deborah at RE today to ask for a copy of the template letter for Sacrament members to use to write to their local MP. So I was wondering if that was a way to address the funding problem. But it's obviously a bit more complicated than I thought, and now I'm not absolutely sure.
It is complicated,
yeah.
But that's no reason not to be pressing the government to provide funding for RE where they could.
Mm. Could we contact Deborah at RE today and ask for the template letter?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
We could.
Great. Could I also ask about one thing that I spotted in the report card on page 23? It says 34% of academies report no timetable RE. Are they breaking the law by not timetabling RE?
Yes.
Right. In just the same way that non-academy schools are?
Yes.
Okay.
So for all state schools, the law is the same, that RE is a statutory subject and needs to be provided, and the general guidance from all Sacrays and locally agreed syllabuses is that they should aim for 5% of their curriculum time.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. It was lovely to see you talking to one another and to have that opportunity to do that, and hopefully we can build that in more as we move into the next academic year, because that's what we're about. That's why we're a team working together on RE. For me, lots of things stand out, but particularly the Ofsted research review, which is one of the things that I talked about with the teachers at a network. And I guess what I would say, rather than painting a kind of gloomy picture, it was lovely to have Paul giving us a positive, that primary schools were reporting that there has been an increase. And yes, okay, we have some areas where it's more tricky than others, but we do have lots of brilliant practice happening here in the county. We've got lots of very committed teachers. We've got 3 of them here on the penultimate week of term in July, on one of the hottest days of the year, and they have come here to give their time to be supportive of RE. So, there's lots of things to celebrate. And in terms of some of the things that the Ofsted research review found, like insufficient time, that's something that we as Sacrament can be reminding schools about, and we did do that on the syllabus launch day, and hopefully through the networks that message will get through as well. But absolutely right that it needs senior management to put that into place. But the insufficient professional development for teachers of RE and gaps in teacher subject knowledge, that is something that I want to work through this coming academic year with the programme of training that I want to put on off the back of the syllabus launch. So that day of a launch was not so much an event as a CPD for people. It wasn't a conference as such, in the sense that it was training. And so we've already begun to help people to feel more confident and to tackle some of those gaps. So for me, this is where we are right now. We are on the up in Northumberland Sacray. RE is going to be moving to even greater heights over the next couple of years, and we're going to work together to do that. So we can see where we're at now, but hopefully going forward we'll be able to address some of these things here locally. And we've been working together where it talks about the future of RE. Obviously we personally can't reinstate the teacher training bursary, but we can lobby government to do some of these things, and we can also be supporting schools with their Ofsted deep dives and all of that. But we can also, we as a Sacray had already agreed to adopt this vision set by the Commission for RE and so on, and continuing to support that here in Northumberland can also obviously help nationally too. So we will continue to wave the flag for great RE here in Northumberland. Okay, report card done.
Item 12, the review of the Nasaray conference and training events. Who's going to give us?
Okay, so that was just so we've got a report at the back of your agenda pack. So the first, on page 27 of your agenda pack, we've got the summary from Nasaray of the Nasaray conference. I attended that day, as did Joyce. It was supposed to be face-to-face in Birmingham, and then at the last minute they pulled that and it was online again. And you can see what happened there, but in summary, if you look at the second summary that Joyce wrote for us, it's probably a bit easier to digest. So there were 3 keynote speakers. One was Ed Paulson, who's the Deputy Chair of the RE Council, and he talked about the REC, which is the RE Council, and talked through its history and what it does, and that was really helpful just to get a sense of that. But the main focus of that was on this, the draft handbook on religion and worldviews. And so we've been talking a little bit in Sacray over the last year or so about worldviews and this kind of change of trajectory within the subject. And there's a 4-year project going on with the RE Council to support syllabus writers with what a religion and worldviews approach might look like, as opposed to the sort of older world religions paradigm I can talk more about that another time if people are interested, but so if you are interested in kind of keeping up to date with what's going on in the kind of World Views project, then you can download that draft handbook from the RE Council for free and have a read at that. Then Richard Quay, HMI for subject lead for RE, talked about a little bit more about the Ofsted research review, which he talked about last year. I'm being recorded and put on YouTube, so I would say that I was hoping for a bit more in terms of something different from last year, but I think what we were hoping for was that the second part of that research that Ofsted were going to publish would have been published, and he would have been able to talk about that, but they obviously aren't as far down the line as that. And so he kind of just talked a bit more about the kind of disciplines within RE and so on, and types of knowledge. And then the final one was David Hampshire, who had done lots of work on Sacrament annual reports, and he did lots of analysis on them and made it more interesting than I thought it might be. So that was really great. And the poor guy had the kind of final slot of the day talking about with pie charts and graphs and stuff, but he did really well. And then at the end of the day, they also showed us the new Nasaray website, which has been updated. And so for those of you who are new to Sacrament, Nasaray is the National Association of Sacrays, and some of you have already been on a bit of training with them, which is great. They are the national body that supports Sacrays, but they also run training, and they have a website with a kind of members area that you, at the beginning of each academic year, you get given a new password, and then you can have access to that stuff and find out more about the training and things like that there. Afterwards, there were follow-up workshops. I attended supporting RE teachers with enhanced subject knowledge, which was a West Hill Award winning project. And so that was Coventry and Warwickshire Sacrays, and they had worked on creating 6 different videos for teacher subject knowledge based on the 6 major world religions that were represented in their area. And they took teachers to the place of worship where a faith representative then talked about their worldview and showed artefacts and so on. And then those faith members in the Sacrament and at the place of worship then created a video with key subject knowledge for the teachers. And those are actually available online from Coventry and Warwickshire Sacrays. So that was it was really great to see a practical outworking of a West Hill Award grant. So thinking ahead for us if we were to apply for one.
Caroline, can I just interrupt you there? There's a lot of this going on of virtual tours of buildings, and not to blow my own trumpet, but there is one that I did last August that's based at the RE Resources Centre, but it's on YouTube, of the Newcastle Synagogue. You've seen it? Mm-hmm. And then I think that there are other sort of local initiatives, and I think that's quite important as well, that you're looking at local places of worship that you might drive past and not be in. Mm. And they're meant for teachers rather than for the kids. And if I can just add, you know, there's BBC Bite Size. This is really relevant to the teachers. I've just done or was advising on the latest one, which is the synagogue, and that actually there's a lovely article in the Jewish Chronicle this week because it's a little girl taking us round Golders Green Synagogue, but I gave them an advice onto what was needed. Because I have to say, those that were producing it had no idea. And that's lovely as well. It's meant for 5 to 7-year-olds. Sorry, I'm blowing my own trumpet.
Thank you. And then part B of item 12 is to receive a verbal review of Nasaray training events attended by Sacrament members this academic year. So some of you, you should all know that Dave has used some of the budget this year to pay for all of us on Sacrament to have access to the online training, and there have been about 8 sessions throughout the year. I know I've obviously done a number of them. Dave has, I know that Joyce has, I think Deanna has, and the teachers have recently done one as well. But this was just to put this on the agenda to make sure that we talk about it and that we're all aware of it, because we need everybody to be going on training so that we're all really aware of what happens in Sacrament. So I was just going to go round and see if there's anybody else who's done any training, and any of those folk that I've mentioned can jump in and say what they went to and what they thought. Joyce?
Okay, I've done 4, 2 of which were part of the conference and 2 others. I have written a report of what I took from those, which perhaps I could send to Rebecca rather than going through it all now, because for obvious reasons I can't wear a wristwatch at the moment. I can't see what time it is, but I'm conscious that time is moving on.
We've got a very full agenda, and I'd very much like to try and finish by 5:30.
One thing I took from the various ones that I've attended is that where you've got teachers working together who are interested and enthusiastic, and you have a strong lead, you can do anything, any sort of project, and it's fabulous. So that was the most encouraging thing I took from it. But I will send you my written report of the 4 that I've done.
Thank you, Joyce. Not just to put the teachers on the spot, would any of you mind? Go on, Claire. Thank you.
Yeah, we all attended a new to Sacrament meeting, and it was really, really helpful, actually, just like the basics of what Sacrament is and what it does, and individually what you can bring to your Sacrament team. It was actually really helpful.
Thank you. And could I encourage everybody in the room who has not attended that session to attend it? So it was on in the autumn term, and it's just happened last week again. Rebecca sent the reminder about a month ago, and then again a couple of weeks ago. It will be happening again in September, so please attend it if you haven't attended it, so that you get a better sense of what Sacrament is about, and then how you what you can bring, so that we can really go forward with our new syllabus and support that.
Kaz, can I just add that the Board of Deputies of British Jews, the Education Department, are also having meetings for Jewish Sacrament members, Zoom meetings countrywide. So that's very interesting that they're doing that, and supporting and encouraging them to be more involved in their Sacraments, not to sit back, and to offer not necessarily training but visits, because I keep seeing contacts. Where do I go for this? Where do I go for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And so I've attended 4 sessions myself this year. So the one on West Hill, on the annual report, on self-evaluation, and on effective chairing of Sacrament. So they've all been really helpful, because they're led by other people on other Sacraments and so on. You get to hear what's going on elsewhere, and to get to hear about good practice, and then we can bring that back here. So the more of us who do that training, then we want to make it worth the money that's been invested, as well as to upskill ourselves. Joyce?
Just that at the end of the report I wrote about the annual Nasaray conference, I made a number of suggestions in terms of future agendas for this meeting and 1 or 2 issues. So could I ask that Dave and Kaz look at those and consider putting them on future agendas, because I think there are a number of matters there that we don't want to lose sight of.
That's really item 13, isn't it, Joyce, where the report, and I think we need to spend more time than we've got today, if everybody's agreeable, at another meeting. Are you okay with that? Because, we put in a lot of time and thought, and there's a lot of detail.
Sorry, Deanna, we're talking at cross purposes.
Oh.
I thought you meant the recommendations at the end of the report on Nasaray. I wasn't talking about our subcommittee.
Sorry, I misheard you.
Okay, great. So, go to training. It's great. Okay. Yes, the Sacrament subcommittee. Deanna, that's our next item.
That is the next item. It was a very detailed report that you sent to us. Has everybody else seen it?
Yes, it's in there.
Oh, it's in here. But
would it be okay if Joyce were to outline that now?
Okay. Thank you. You'll remember that in February at our meeting we set up a subcommittee to look at the future of Sacrament and how we can make it more vibrant, more active. And so 6 of us got together and we ran a subcommittee as we set out in the agreed terms of reference. And I'm pleased to say that the subcommittee was quorate in the sense that there was representation from each of the 4 committees on Sacrament. And there were, 5 of us involved. And we had 3 meetings, all of which I found extremely stimulating and interesting. It was, for me, a very enjoyable subcommittee to be part of. At the end of every meeting, I did a note of the meeting, which I also sent to Kaz and to Dave and to Guy. And then we did a set of draft recommendations and refined them each time until by the end of March we had the paper that was included in your agenda under agenda item 3. We did decide that we had so many recommendations that we should divide them into 2 to make it more manageable. And on the first page, page 31, is a list of the recommendations that we wanted to put to you for the academic year 2022-23. When I thought about this meeting, I had the idea that we'd go through each one and we'd agree them or not, and the chair would decide what sort of action we would have, and we'd come out with a full action plan. As Deanna says, time is pressing on now, and I don't know how much detail you want to go into at this point. Perhaps the easiest thing, if you don't mind, Deanna, is to ask if there's anybody who disagrees with any of these recommendations or finds any of them confusing or ambivalent in any sort of way.
Yes, that's fine.
I think it's brilliant. I don't disagree with anything. I had a few questions. One was point number 13. Sacrament should advise the council on the need for support from school improvement services to gather data on how far schools meet their statutory duties, particularly with regard to the implementation of a new agreed syllabus. Would that also include with regard to the hours of RE teaching that we talked about earlier? Yeah, good. Point number 15, analysis of workforce data along with any evidence from Ofsted reports. That is specific to RE, presumably. Yes. Fine. Yeah, I assumed it was. And point 18, where it refers to the development plan, presumably that is synonymous with the action plan. Yeah, fine. Thanks for clearing up. Just minor points. I think it's all brilliant.
Can I just bring, and this is a very selfish point of view, item 5 on conduct and content of the Sacrament meetings, and we suggested that they should be hybrid, but this isn't a hybrid meeting. It's being recorded. That's not what I would call a hybrid meeting. To me, a hybrid would be that you could zoom into the meeting. Is that what you meant?
What was meant by that was that we should have both in-person and video recording. I think even when we talked about it, we were aware that there could be technological difficulties in doing that. And of course, this is something for the future, not for today's meeting. No. We would have to agree this. We wanted to try to make sure that Sacrament was always quorate. And if one of the ways of doing that was to have people coming in online, then that would be better than people sending apologies.
Yes.
So that it would be to investigate the practicality of that as a way forward.
Yeah. Dave, have you got any comments about that? Or is it going to be difficult?
In terms of hybrid meetings?
Yeah.
The difficulty will come as to whether we are allowed to do that. So it's not...
I know.
Practically it can be done. It's whether it is the policy of the council to allow us to have hybrid meetings. That's where the difficulty will come. So I think that's something we ought to
Well,
ask
I don't
the
know
chair
how,
to look into.
Yeah, how my colleague at Newcastle, but we tend to do Zoom type meetings and have continued to do them. So I'm not quite sure how he wangled it.
Well, I think we leave that as an action for the chair on the new action plan from September.
Sorry, I was thinking of something, I didn't hear that.
I think that's whether we can have hybrid meetings should be something that we leave with the chair in particular.
So is everybody happy about this, or anybody else got any comments to make about the recommendations?
I've got a question. Do the meetings always have to be on a Wednesday at this time? Just, I know the partnership that my school network's in have a staff meeting on a Wednesday, and I know it's, if you want more teachers to come, that's just a really difficult day for staff to come. I mean, my head teacher is really understanding, but I know a lot of head teachers are less so. So maybe, I don't know if you want to think about not like just alternating, so every once in a while have it on a different day or a different time.
Historically, as far as I know, it's always been a Wednesday, and previously, Tony, you'll remember, we used to do the morning, and then we changed it to the afternoon to give teachers the possibility of coming along. And I think it's also to do with the availability of rooms in the building because of the council as well, and council members, whether they can attend. So it's not straightforward, but I appreciate your difficulty.
It might be something to think about, I don't know.
Sorry?
It might just be something to think about, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you to Joyce for all of the work that went into this, and to those who were on the subcommittee and went to the meetings and so on, but particularly Joyce for being the driving force in getting this up and going. And I would, obviously I'm not a member of Sacrament, so I can't make you do this, but I would say it would be really great to take these recommendations on board and to work through those in the next academic year so that we can move forward as a Sacrament and enliven a Sacrament, as Joyce says.
Right. Well, could I suggest that Sacrament accepts this report and approves that perhaps Dave and Kaz and I and Guy should have conversations about how we can now best take this forward, and come back to the next meeting with a sort of work plan on how these recommendations can be brought into effect.
That would be very, very positive. And personally, I'd like to thank you for the amount of work you've put in with this and how much we got through in each hour.
I'm one of these strange people who loves work. Thank you.
Okay, so Chair, do you want to just ensure that Sacrament are happy to accept the report?
Thank you.
If I could just for the minutes, if I could just take a...
Yes.
Any against? Any abstains? Oh, cool.
The action plan, that's 14.
Yeah, I'll talk to that one. So this is the 2-year action plan due to finish next August. We are on our way with many of them. The timescales did slip for the agreed syllabus. We originally wanted it done when we wrote this, by January, but we have managed that now. The information has been disseminated. Kaz has talked a little bit about the plan to support the staff to implement it, and we will, across next year, work with schools to ensure that they are preparing themselves ready for full implementation from September 2023. We will monitor results when they are available, which will be towards the back end of the year. In a sense, we haven't monitored numbers of pupils withdrawn from RE this year, and the same with collective worship, but we don't know of any that have been. That's obviously not the same thing. And I do think maybe that's something that we need to come back to as part of the action plan for next year, is looking at withdrawals and collective worship in particular. So I think we are working through most of them. I think
Just get Rebecca to do this one now.
Yeah. The annual report is penciled in for me to write 2 weeks today, so that will be circulated later in the year. We have sent people to the Nasaray Annual Conference, as you've heard. Rebecca, do you want to talk about the broadening of the membership, which was something that we've put on the agenda? And I know we asked you to do some work on trying to find new or replacement members for us.
Yeah, so I have sent out, I have sent out emails to all of the vacancies to try and get any members. I've prompted that back up. I'm still waiting on hearing anything back. So at the minute, it's still radio silence at the minute.
We've got the same problem in Newcastle as well, where people. No, we've got a replacement for Marianne, I think, from the same organisation. Only I can't remember his name.
Yep. So that's certainly something.
I can find his name and pass it on to you.
It's something we need to go back to, and maybe I'll talk to Rebecca about how we do that, to approach those organisations again and see if we can ensure that we have. We are quorate, obviously, but then there is better representation. On the back of the recommendations that Joyce have made from the subcommittee, then obviously I think it would make perfect sense if those 16 recommendations just become the action plan from September. And maybe we'll look again, because collective worship is into the following year, whether we leave that there or bring that into 22-23, but I think it would make perfect sense if that's the collective view of the subcommittee. Then it makes good sense that becomes the action plan from September, which as you say, I'm happy to work with you to put that into action.
Thank you. There's an awful lot of rattling of paper. I don't know that you can do it any other way, and we are. Keep losing the. So the date of the next meeting is Wednesday the 9th of November. But I presume at 4 o'clock. You haven't put the time on. And does anybody have any urgent business?
Sorry, I just want to ask a quick question of those on Committee A and B. I've had a school that's would like to, very similar to what Deanna was talking about. One of the most frequently asked questions is, can I recommend visitors from different faiths and worldviews? And I've been asked that question 3 times this week already for Northumberland schools. And I'm just wondering if there's anybody in this room who would be willing to talk to schools about their worldview tradition.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we've got Christian, Buddhist, that's brilliant.
You've got me as well.
And Jewish, brilliant.
If the
thank you so
school
much.
is too far, I would probably do a Zoom type session. It's still an encounter, even if it's not in person.
Great. All right. Thanks so much. Yes.
Yes,
absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you, Chair.
Not at all.
Can I raise one other quick point? Could we have the dates of meetings well in advance? And would it be possible to have this meeting earlier in the term? Because I just think it's too late, and it's too long a gap since our meeting in February.
Yeah, November's a bit late.
It is. Well,
I think
July's too late after February.
Well, one of the problems is, or in the past, we tended to make it later so that we got the GCSE results. That was. Certainly we do that, I think. Sorry, the Newcastle one's November.
I didn't mean the November meeting as much, but our last meeting was February and it's now July, and that's a very, very long gap when there's been no meeting of Sacrament. And it's too late in the term because I think people are just tired and busy now. So an earlier meeting, I think, would be better. But I'd like to know dates in advance.
After the 9th, have we?
They're on the council website, so if you go onto the council website and then upcoming meetings, all of the upcoming meetings for Sacrament will be on there. But I can, if you want us to write them down for the next agenda, I can.
When would you like the meetings? Which months of the year would you like the meetings in?
Well, November, because of half term, we can't have October really. So November, the end of February, May, or
Right. Well, I'll certainly have a look at it. I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but we'll have a look and we'll see if they are set for this year. But we've moved this one because this one was due to be in 2 weeks' time.
Yes.
So we may well be able to move the others, and at least we can influence the timing of them in future, because they are dates set by Democratic Services. But if we want them at a particular time, we need to let them know in advance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if that concludes everything, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Have a good summer. Excuse me for bumbling through this.